Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and I'd like to welcome you to the Gateway Writing Advantage. I'm Dr. Cooney Beasley. I'm a graduate of the Marine Military Academy in Harlingen, Texas, the toughest military school in the United States, run by Marines, the only one by Marines. I have a Bachelor of Science from Texas Christian University, a Master of Business Administration from Oklahoma City University, which I finished in 50 weeks. I have a Doctor of Ministry from Tyndale Seminary, PhD in Urban and Public Administration from University of Texas at Arlington. I'm a retired Army officer who is not retired anymore because they recalled me to the Standby Reserve. 18 years as a college professor, and I'm the founder and dean of the Gateway Preparatory School and the Gateway program. Welcome you here tonight because we're going to go over the Gateway Writing Advantage. Many common elements in the Gateway Writing Advantage you're going to see tonight are also in the Gateway Study Advantage. Things like the tables function, block documents, KISS format, and the road method. Now, so we're going to start now. Make sure, those of you who are on the video, that you have the video put together on your player or on your PC. If you're going to have it on your PC, use your Windows function to pull in the reference guide, reference material, and the workbook. Rules for studying. Rule number 1, always take notes. Rule number 2, scope things out first. Good. Now, always take notes. Those of you on the video program, there's a workbook that you can call up in the Word using Microsoft Word, using Windows, so you can use your word processor to take notes over this because we have notes and tables set up for you to take notes. Just call the document up. You can use Windows and just write your notes in there. Scope things out. We're going to talk about writing using a PC-based system. We're going to talk about our block documents and how they're used for writing, a KISS format, a monograph format, we call monographs, applications of these, and how to expand your writing. Block notes. In the Study Advantage, we talked about block notes and how to configure them. If you haven't done the Study Advantage yet, we're going to talk about how to set up your tables here in a few minutes. But we have a block document. The process of using a block document is a way to take notes. When we set up our tables, we're going to use the tables function in Microsoft Word. It is the foundation of the note-taking and writing systems that we use in all of the Gateway Advantages. Helps us organize our writing, provide us agility to be able to move stuff back and forth. Instead of having to try to go into a paragraph and carve out a sentence, we can just move a row in the table. It's speed, and we're able to add detail. So the tables function gives us a tool for agility, move things around, and to do it very quickly. If you're setting up the tables on your PC, you can go to the tables icon. Many of you have a tables icon on your PC, and when you do the tables icon, you simply darken out a 3x3 table. If you don't have the tables icon, you go to the tables on the menu where it says Draw Table. You click Insert, go to the table. You pick 3 columns and 3 rows, and you'll get something that looks like this. The basic 3-row, 3-column table is where we start virtually everything that we do in all of the Gateway Advantage. Our table agility, again, allows us to edit and to move our text very quickly. It's easier to organize, and it requires fewer mouse clicks, so you can go and move very quickly. We're going to talk about the road method. Those of you who have been in the study program have probably seen this before. The road method is an acronym for read, organize, analyze, and document. The road method. When we read, and we're doing writing, we read a little differently for the type of writing that we need to do. There are different types of reading that we will be doing for the different types of writing. Are we going to do reference type of reading to get information from particular references? Are we doing research? We're simply trying to record information, or we're trying to recall and remember. So when we read, different types of reading that we're going to be doing. When we reference, what we're looking for in our reading process and referencing is we're looking for sources, we're looking for authors and their works, extracts, quotes. We're looking for citations. Those are the little things, those are footnotes and the little things you indicate where you got the information in your writing. Looking for a reference list. that we can use to find information. We're looking for a thing called authorities. That's a good way or a fancy way of saying we're quoting people. We're copying their information and giving them credit for it. And a bibliography, where we compile the list of where we've extracted information. If we're doing reference type writing, these are the things that we're going to be looking for. Let me show you how we do something like this. This is something that we've extracted from a source. This is actually extracted someplace in the World Book Encyclopedia. This is on page 4 of your reference material. This is Herman Melville. This is an article on Herman Melville. So we're looking at source, or a reference. Indicates who the contributor is, and they give you a citation. They give you a way of putting the footnote or the reference for this article if you had to turn in information that you've derived from this article on a report or a paper that you had to write. And if you have citation information using the tables function, using the PC, and you're pulling it offline, all you simply do is cut and paste this and put it in your table so you have the citation information. That means you don't have to you don't have to write it yourself. You simply cut and paste. You have the citation material if you're doing research type of reading. In a study advantage, we talked about something called a reference. And we do our tables. One of the things that we have in our table is the right-hand column called a reference. When we go through the process of scoping things out, we may get information from certain locations, and what we want to do in our reference is indicate where we got that information. We may have multiple sources getting that information. So that's what we want to do. Here we have, inserting in the table, how to do the reference for the Herman Melville. And what we've done on the side here is indicated an initial. That's the initial of the author. So if we had to sort them or put them in alphabetical order or something like that, we have a little initial off to the side that gives us a hand in doing this. If we're doing research, we're research reading, we're looking to do some of the types of study processes we talked about in the study advantage, inspectional, analytical, syntopical types of reading. We're simply trying to gather information. When we record, we're simply going to insert information into the table. This is found on page 7. What we want to do is recall and remember. If we're doing some writing and we have any kind of information that we remember or recall, we just insert a row and write it down. Take a note to ourselves. Okay? There's no law that says you can't do a note to yourself. We take a note to ourselves. When we use the PC, we want to catalog our information. We will use block notes. We will cut and paste information, insert information, and reference it. We do things called free writing. What we want to do is do one row per sentence. The reason we do one row per sentence is it makes it easy for us to move sentences around if we want to reorganize sentences. And when we do free writing, we just write. We're not trying to make it perfect. We're just going to write. We're going to organize the information later. When we organize our information, we're going to compile and cluster things. We do this with extracted data. If we're going to write a report or something that's real information dense, we're going to try to cluster it and we're going to try to compile it. When we compile stuff, we want to gather all our data into one table. We want to make sure that we have any references that we need so that if we're going to use it in any kind of report, we have our citations or our references. Worst thing you can do is plagiarize. That means copy somebody else's work and try to get credit for it, or not give the person who you quoted the work from or extracted the work from the proper credit. If you want to get kicked out of college real quick, plagiarize. There's a lot of college professors who lost their jobs because they plagiarized. Then we do a thing called cluster. We want to kind of group our sentences because we've done our free writing, we organize our stuff. We want to kind of group our sentences into a cluster so that like sentences will come together, sentences that cover the same information, same topics, they'll come together. And then we want to cut and paste the tables and the rows to put them in there so that they're clustered together. Using the tables function allows us to do this very quickly. We put up major headers. We have different types of headers. We have what's called divisional headers, and they're based on topic or theme, and that's kind of a header that we would put into the document itself. We also have functional headers. If we have a chronology, it would be a functional header. We're writing the paper according to a chronology or time. Or we have a priority, most important thing, second important thing, and so on. Depends on how we want to organize our paper. These are some general things that get you thinking that you have to do ahead of time when you're writing your paper. Getting your references, compiling your information, clustering it, putting major headers in. One of the things you can do in the tables function is you can sort. For example, if you've got sentences, you can give yourself a code and say, all of these are going to go under subtopic A, and these other sentences are going to go under subtopic B and subtopic C or whatever, and then you sort that column, and it automatically will cluster your sentences because you've sorted it. By using the tables function, you're going to be able to write your papers faster and better. Analysis. When we do our analysis, we're looking for insight, significance, looking for the issue, looking for a perspective. We're trying to derive an opinion, make a point, draw a conclusion, have a summation. In our analysis process in the road method, this is what we're trying to do. We insert an analysis into our writing. We just, we recall, we remember something, we insert the analysis at the appropriate place. If we have an impact or something, we want to write an opinion, we want to do something in our free writing, because we're using tables, we just insert it right where it's supposed to go. Finally, we document. Talk about using, in a topical type of environment, we want to use a bone or block document. If we're using a thematic or thesis thing where we're having a very elaborate paper, we're going to use a KISS format. Now, I'm going to go into the mechanics of this later. I'm trying to give you the overview now so that your mind, we're scoping this out, your mind is being prepared to understand some of the stuff that we're going to have. When we get into the details and do the mechanics of this, you're going to see how this works. In our bone document, this is an extraction from the book of Luke, from the Bible. One of the courses I taught at one time was a Bible course. And what we did here in this bone document is we set up the references. This is found on page 14. We set up references so that when there was information from a major header, we knew where that information was located. So we put references up. When we wrote our information on these things, these different headers, these different bone items, we simply wrote it into the key points. The difference that we did here is we wrote them in prose. We wrote them in proper prose, the same way we'd expect them to appear in a paper. So we have headers, we have references, and we have the key points found on page 15. Now, if we have tables and we want to convert the information that we have in the tables to a format that we can turn in, because I don't think many of your teachers or professors are going to accept tables turned in, you're going to have to convert this. There are two fundamental ways that we convert it. We can merge rows to convert table to text. We can use a base document, and we clean up the format. And I'll show you the process here. First thing we would do in something like this is we would merge cells. Look at page 8. I'm going to flip back a little bit here. Look at page 8. We use a merge cells function. In the tables, we can tell it to take two cells, two rows, and just stick them together. And that's all we're doing here, sticking them together, making a compound sentence. We can also merge rows, and we see this on page 8 where we have merged rows to make them compound sentences. They would just come out better as compound sentences. Okay? Then we go to the tables function, and we go convert tables to text using the drop-down menu. And when we do that, it pops out like this. I mean, a couple of mouse clicks, and this is what happens. It pops out like this. You can see this on page 11. All the information will pop out like this, because we remove all of the rows and all of the tables and everything, and it pops out like this. Most of the paper, all you have to do is kind of reformat it and clean it up, you see? It becomes a lot easier. Just doing the mechanics. This is no great magic. This is simply being able to effectively manipulate the tables function in Word and using the tables function as a tool. Instead of trying to write on a blank piece of paper, use tables. I can't overemphasize that enough. We clean this thing up. You see this on page 12. We clean this thing up. We double space it for proper college format. And this is what it looks like. It looks pretty good, doesn't it? And a person who uses our system of using the tables function will probably finish this in a third of the time that somebody trying to do it the old linear conventional way would try to do this. You with me? Now, there's another way of doing this, and this is called a mail merge. We refer to this as the parlor trick. What happens in the mail merge is a little complex, but if you master this, this is not a class on how to use the computer. This is giving you an idea that if you go in and you learn some of these things on the computer, it's going to make your work a lot easier. We have a block document in tables. We're going to use a mail merge function, and then we clean it up and format it. We have this block document. This is the thing that we used from Luke, page 15. What we do is we go to the Tools menu, click on Mail Merge, and we say we want to establish a catalog. That means it's going to take information and put it in a catalog form, one after another. We go to New Main Document, so we tell this that we're going to transfer this to another type of document. In the New Main Document, we're going to have it open a data source. The data source it opens up is the document that you have your block document in. That becomes your data source. Then you're going to select the block document. This is our Luke block, our block document. Then you're going to edit the main document. When you edit the main document, you're going to through a programming process, tell the computer where you want the information to go when you're doing a mail merge. So you have these different fields. Each one of these fields here comes from one of the columns in your block document. We're telling it to put a header in, so everything in that column is going to go there and it's going to be underlined. We indent a little bit and say everything in the key points box is going to go into key points. Everything in the reference box is going to go into parentheses. And then we have this other box over here called acknowledgments. That means if this was a group written paper, you would acknowledge who contributed, what member of the group contributed to this particular portion of the paper. So we stick that in there just to show you that that's there. You can see this on page 16. But this is how you set this thing up. You're actually programming the computer to move the data around for you. We go to the View function. We simply click. There's this little thing up there that says ABC. It's an icon. You click it, and this will tell you what the first row will look like. We check this, and that's what we want the first row to look like when it comes out in the paper. Then we go and we hit the Merge button. The reason we know it's a Merge button because on most toolbars it says Merge. Okay, if you have any problem with that, we have a reading course that, anyway, it says Merge. So you hit the Merge button. There's a little window that usually will pop up, and you tell it to merge. You click Merge, and boom! Look at page 17. If we did this on a computer, the paper would write itself. Now, it does take the computer a little time to grind this out, generally someplace between 1.5 and 1.75 seconds. Maybe a little longer if you've got a 50 or 60 page document. It may push the 2-second realm. Boom. On page 18, you can see how this thing, we just clean it up and we format it. We had an adult go through our adult diploma program. She went to junior college. She had to write 4 papers one evening. The smallest one was 8 pages, longest one was 28 pages. 4 papers from the time she cracked the book to the time she put 4 papers out in this format was from 5 o'clock to 11 o'clock, using our study system, our note-taking system, and using our writing system. The lowest grade she got on these 4 papers was a 92. Now we're going to talk about KISS. KISS is our unifying template. It is the way we think throughout all of the Gateway Advantage. The way we think when we study, think when we read, think when we write. KISS is the acronym for Key Points, Insight, Significance, and Summation. Now, we're going to scope some things out. I'm going to talk to you in the next few minutes about rhetoric, the KISS components, how to write what we call abstracts and vignettes, and how to write a KISS paper. We template everything that we write. It doesn't mean that you have to template everything that you write. We start out with a base template, you fill out the template, and then if you need to expand from that, then you expand from that. But if you get it into the base template, as we show you these templates, you're going to realize how powerful these templates can be for you. Let's talk about rhetoric for a second. Rhetoric, the art of speaking or writing effectively. That's Webster's definition. The first English course I took in college, back in the old days, under the oil lamps and the dinosaurs, my first English course was rhetoric. I couldn't pronounce it. I couldn't spell it. I didn't understand it. And I had a difficult time in English until I got a grasp of things. And I had to do a lot of research myself to understand the whole concept of rhetoric. Now, those years that I took researching and understand this, you're going to get in a matter of minutes, because I'm going to cut to the chase here and help you understand the whole concept of rhetoric, because it's pretty simple once you get a grasp of it. Aristotle's rhetoric consisted of three elements: ethos, pathos, logos. You've probably heard those words before. You probably don't fully understand them. Ethos, pathos, logos. Ethos, that's an appeal based on the character of the speaker. Ethos-driven documents rely on the reputation of the person or of the author. You know, we're getting this from the president. Logos is an appeal based on logic or reason. They are usually documents distributed by companies or corporations, or scholarly documents. They're trying to reason their way through. Companies are trying to tell you, in their advertising a lot of times, they'll try to tell you, tests say that people like our car better than the other car, or our Coca-Cola better than Pepsi, or something like that. They're trying to use facts and information to sway your opinion. Then there's pathos. It's appeal based on emotion. Most of your advertisements on TV are pathos-driven, based on emotion, not necessarily happiness or sadness, but want to make you feel something in order to buy their product. Our applications, ethos are facts. The facts here mean that these are quotable, you can cite them, you can reference them. Facts. When we're dealing with logos, we're looking for findings, logical conclusions, things that we can predict, things that we have results for. Logic, logos. Pathos has to do with feelings. Things are evoked, instilled, uncovered. What do you think about this? What do you feel about this? How does this make you feel? Let me show you an application of this. We're going to go to the Gettysburg Address. Page 19 is the full text of the Gettysburg Address. I used to be able to memorize the whole thing. 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth to this continent a new nation. Did I get that right? That's good. Conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. We're now engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or... Oh, okay. I don't want to show off. Actually, I could read it from... No. All right. Page 19. This is the full text of this. It was only a few minutes long. I don't think it was quite 2 minutes. But from a perspective of its impact on American society, immeasurable. Let me show you how Abe Lincoln did this. His ethos. He starts off stating facts. Our facts here, the 7 years ago. We're now engaged in a great civil war. We are met on the battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that. Okay, these are stone cold facts. These cannot be debated, right? Stone cold facts. So he starts off with his ethos, sets down his factual premise, his foundation. Then he goes to pathos, feelings. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this, but in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate. Talk about the brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, consecrated it far beyond our poor power to add or detract. Sometimes if you really hear these words, it makes you tingle a little bit. Really, really pulls out the feelings in this. Very simple words, but it pulls your feelings. Then the logos. You see, he's trying to get people to call themselves to action. So he's taking this emotion and saying, logically, this is what we need to do. The world will little note, no long remember what we do here, but never forget what they did here. But for us the living, rather. And he begins to extend this logically. That be dedicated here to the unfinished work. Rather for us here be dedicated to the great task before us. He's using logic to say, we've got to move forward. We've got to complete this war. We've got to win. Then he has a summary. He summarizes, from these honored dead we take increased devotion. That we highly resolve that the dead shall not have died in vain. In his great quote here that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. He encapsulates everything here. How does this work? Let's look at our KISS process here. Let's look at our unifying template. Something about Abraham Lincoln, he was self-taught. But what he read were classical Greek works. He understood the rhetorical process of ethos, pathos, and logos. He understood how to use that. So when he wrote the Gettysburg Address, the thinking process he had developed over those years, he just put into effect. He just applied the mechanics. So we have the key points, ethos, facts, quoted, extracted, insight, additional information to understand the key points. Can be logos or pathos depending on the insight, your significance. That's the outcome or result. It can be logos or pathos, and it depends on the significance, how you want to place it, but it must be different than insight. If insight is logos, significance has to be pathos. If insight is pathos, significance has to be logos. Either or, you can't be both. Summation, you summarize your key points, your insight and significance. You integrate the ethos, pathos, and logos. If you read the Gettysburg Address, that's exactly what he does. Let's go back to key points. These are the facts. Quote, paraphrase, reference. Limited to the sources, there is no opinion expressed in the facts, just stone cold facts. And generally we want to pick out the four most important. When we develop insight, we're looking for higher level thinking. We're trying to enhance with details, enrich with related information. We want to develop some background. Significance is the message. What we want to give is the important concept, issue, thesis, the thing that we want people to understand. My point, your point, Abraham Lincoln's point, the impact, the outcome, he elucidates, brings light to. Our summation integrates. It's cohesive, brings everything in. It's conclusive. We bring a conclusion. It closes things the right way. There's no new information so much brought in there. We're not trying to make a new point there. So we go back to the Gettysburg Address. On our key points, we have 4 key points. Our 4 ethos things. 4 key points. We have 3 insight. We have 3 pathos. We have 3 significance. 3 logos. We have 2 summation. Page 20 is a full analysis of this. That here, this is actually not 2 sentences. It's 2 ideas in a very complex compound sentence, but 2 separate elements in his summation. Is how he used his ethos, pathos, and logos. If you understand ethos, pathos, and logos, key points, insight, significance, you can write anything. Now, I'm going to talk about abstracts. Abstracts is a short summary of key information, 3 to 7 sentences. And a lot of times if we have a term, we're going to define a term with an abstract. We can describe things, note features and characteristics. We can depict things in context. We can even use the KISS process, key points, insight, significance, summation, in writing an abstract. Let me give you some examples here. This is a famous movie called The Seven Samurai. Page 21 in your reference manual there. Here we have ethos, pathos, logos. We have facts, feelings, findings. We have key points, insight, significance. All of this falls together in the same pattern. You can read this here about the 7 samurai, an extraordinary tale of adventure. Here's how it breaks out. When you break this stuff up like this and conduct this analysis, it's called parsing, chopping things up in the elements, its details, analysis, parsing. We're going to parse this. We get the key points here. Here's the plot, set in the 16th century Japan. The plot revolves around 7 mercenaries hired to defend a peasant community against marauding bandits. When the samurai arrive, a spectacular series of battles begin. Okay? That gives us the key points, the facts. This is the plot. Then we go into insight. He's not talking about the movie and the insight. He's talking about the director. So we begin to understand some of the motivation behind the movie itself. He talks about the director. Kurosawa, innovative use of slow motion, rapidly moving camera, long lens photography, captures the ferocious conflict. Okay? Insight. You're getting to understand some of the cinematographic techniques that were used. Significance. But this is far more than a stupendous action film. And he talks more about Kurosawa. Kurosawa's classic is also remembered for its timeless theme of personal bravery and the indomitability of the human spirit. Seven Samurai inspired a generation of filmmakers, including Sam Peckinpah, The Wild Bunch, John Sturges, The Magnificent Seven. But for passion and vitality, it has never been equaled. Okay? He's giving you impact. What was the impact of this movie and this director? He's not so much talking about the movie itself, but how the movie affected other people, how this director affected other people. Then he gets into summation. Seven Samurai, an extraordinary tale of adventure, romance, humor, and suspense, has been hailed by critics worldwide as one of the best films of all time. That's his summation. And he uses a summation as the introduction. You see how the process works? Professional writers know how to use this, and we're going to see better examples of this. Like from this guy. Hamlet. What we're trying to do is define, describe, and depict things using a KISS process. Key points, insight, significance, summation. Here's an abstract from Hamlet. It's found on page 22 of your reference manual. Very simple abstract. I pulled a Sir Laurence Olivier picture here from Hamlet. Hamlet is one of my favorites. Here we have key points. Main character is Hamlet. King's ghost appears. Ghost demands vengeance. These are stone cold facts. Key points, facts, ethos. If you understand the play itself, this is just the plot, essentially. Character, setting, plot, motivation. Insight. He describes the background of the play itself. Prior to Hamlet's writing, the Hamlet story was told. We're not talking about the story itself or the plot. We're talking about literary history on how it influenced the play. We're getting insight. We're beginning to understand stuff outside the play itself. You see? Significance. Here we get into the play and we depict some analysis. What is important in the play? What's the thing that really makes Hamlet Hamlet? Talks about his uncertain inability to act, drives Hamlet to what appears to be insanity, and so forth. Pulls us together, points us to why the play is important. Then we have the summation. Classic tragedy of misspent revenge entwined with familial incest, encapsulated in one man's struggle for truth, courage, encapsulates it. This is mechanics. It's mechanics. Ethos, pathos, logos, key points, insight, significance, summation. Here's three abstracts. They're found on pages 23 to 24. I extracted these from some American history, some encyclopedias, just pulled them out. These are written by professional writers. Professional writers know this system. That's why they're professional writers. They know the system. Détente. It's only 3 lines in this. 3 lines in this abstract. First line, key points. Defines the term in context. What détente means. It's a French term. Here's how it applies to the context. Stone cold fact. Insight describes the background, how it was applied in this particular situation. Significance. What was the outcome? How did it affect people? 3 sentences. Key point, insight, significance. You with me? Don Quixote, 5 lines. Okay, key point, insight, significance. Starts out defining the character, setting, plot, motivation. Key points. Insight describes the story. You've got enrichment. You understand the story. And the significance depicts the character and the impact. 5 lines. Aristotle, 7 lines. Professional writer again. Key points, insight, significance. Key points defines the person. Insight describes the background. Significance depicts the impact. What impact did he have? If we can simply get you thinking like professional writers, there's no reason why you can't write like professional writers and make the grades that professional writers make. Let's talk about vignettes. Look on page 25. Vignettes is just kind of an abstract plus. We're going to make a little bit more of an expansion on abstract. It's more than 7 lines. You understand that we have a process here. We go 3 to 7 lines for an abstract. You get above 7 lines, you go to a vignette, a new template. Vignettes are generally 2 paragraphs. Sometimes they're 3 paragraphs. Vignettes, another template. Here's a 2-paragraph vignette. Look at page 26. This is on George Orwell. The first paragraph is simply an abstract. The second paragraph is simply additional insight and significance. We're taking the abstract, adding some more information. It's that simple. You with me? A real simple process. The only thing is you know what? Most people don't think this way when they write papers or when they write stuff. They just throw stuff down. It's unorganized. Instead of, say, we got a real simple template. Key points, insight, significance, put it together. If it's going to be bigger, bust it into 2 paragraphs. You with me? Look at here. Key points, insight, significance. We talk about the plot and the key points. We describe the background. We depict the outcome and the conclusion. And this is all focused itself on the book itself, 1984. When we get into the plus part, what we're doing here is what's the impact and the author. We pull some other information in, elaborate a little bit more. That's essentially all we do with a vignette. Write an abstract, add a little more information to it. Here's a 3-paragraph abstract. Page 27. This is on Pythagoras. Your first paragraph contains the key points. Second paragraph contains the insights. Third paragraph contains the significance. You see the consistent pattern. These here, I want to tell you, these are not my writing. I'm pulling these out of things that professional writers write. I'm trying to show you their secrets. If you know their secrets, you're going to write like them. You write like them, your writing's going to get better. They get paid for it. You with me? Key points. Defines the subject, who he was, what he did. Key points, stone cold facts, okay? Insights. We give the background details. We're enhancing this, giving all the background details on this guy. Pythagoras Insights describes the background details. Enhancement gives you more information so you understand this guy better. Then we get the significance, outcomes, results. What was his impact? How did he affect things after him? Now, we can expand the abstract by simply adding more lines. Page 28. We're back to Hamlet. We have a block document. We have Hamlet, his abstract in a table here. Fact, 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 finding, finding, summation. We're going to insert some lines. We're going to insert an additional fact line, some findings and feelings and summation. We're going to insert some more lines. We're simply going to add more information. You with me? Just going to add more information. We're going to fluff it up, but doing it in a systematic form so it doesn't look like you're putting filler in. Looks like you're adding this to enhance it. Okay? So here, we've got an extra fact, some extra findings, some extra feelings. We've inserted lines, and it expands it to 4 paragraphs. Our vignette, page 29. We have a paragraph of key points, a paragraph of insights, a paragraph of significance, and a paragraph of summation. 4 paragraphs. We've simply expanded this. All it took us was just a little thinking. And now we're back to the KISS format again. Key points, insight, significance, summation. Again, our unifying template. Understanding rhetoric and KISS together, we have our ethos, pathos, and logos, which translates over to facts, feelings, findings, which in our application translates to key points, insight, significance, and summation. You see how this unifying template pulls all of this stuff in. All this is a tool for you. We call the KISS format a daily dozen. This is a universal template, and you'll see this in a few minutes. Generally, you'll go with 4 key points, 3 insights, 3 significance, 2 summation, giving us either 12 sentences or 12 elements in this. If you have these 12 elements, you have what's called a cogent document. You've covered everything that you need to cover if you've applied it correctly. If you put your key points in, your ethos, you put your insight and significance in, your pathos and logos, and you put your summation in, you're going to have a cogent document. This allows you to balance the number of sentences that you have so that information is relatively balanced. Also, when we do this in our Gateway Preparatory School, we force them to use this format. It forces the students to budget their sentences. Here's our Hamlet KISS. It's on page 30. We have 4 key points, 3 insight, 3 significance, and a summation. You see how we've taken this from an abstract to a vignette and expanded it to what we call a KISS document or a KISS paper. Found on page 30, we have a daily dozen. We have a cogent document. If you broke this down and used some of the merge functions and set it on a piece of paper to turn in, you've got an essay. This will cover a page, 1-page essay. Our key points, we've got the ethos. We're defining, we're describing, we're depicting stone cold facts. This, key points, the plot, characters, right out of the book, the play itself. Our insight, getting our logos, we've expanded on that. Significance, our pathos, getting into the play, the emotions of the play, giving us the reason why Hamlet is as famous as it is. Then our summation, classic tragedy of misspent revenge. And then we've added another summation about Hamlet. The character has become to symbolize those thoughtful nature and those kinds of things. So we've been able to wrap this thing up properly. But we're going to go back to Gettysburg for a second. Page 31, Gettysburg Address is there again for you. Here's the Gettysburg in the KISS format. Page 31. 4 key points, 3 insight, 3 significance, 2 summation. Same type of format. Daily dozen. He has his 4 key points. He has his ethos. He defines, describes, and depicts the situation, stone cold facts. He has his pathos and his insight, 3 insights, 3 significance. Has his logos. He has his 12 elements when he wraps it up with 2 summation. He has a completely cogent speech, a cogent document, a cogent presentation. He covers everything, and everything is perfectly balanced. 4, 3, 3, 2. Everything is perfectly balanced. A lot of times when students write papers, they become very unbalanced and very unorganized. Here, showing you in 12 sentences how a historical speech that had tremendous impact on our history, perfectly balanced in 12 sentences. This guy was a pro. Some people don't understand about this one. Now this one, the Alamo, we had a KISS paper written at the Alamo. Did you know that? At the Alamo. Here we have William Barrett Travis, page 33 in your reference guide. He writes this letter about the problem there at the Alamo. Now again, most of these people at this time in our history were classically trained. They may not have gone to universities, but they were classically trained. They read the Greek classics. They understood the thinking processes, ethos, pathos, logos. And all I'm doing is taking that classical ethos, pathos, logos, and showing you how to apply it today. Key points, insight, significance, summation. Let's look at what he did. Alamo, key points, found on page 34. He gives you 4 statements of fact. Ethos. He defines, describes, and depicts the situation. Besieged by 1,000 or more of the Mexicans under Santa Anna, I have sustained a continual bombardment and cannonade for 24 hours and have not lost a man. The enemy has demanded to surrender at discretion, otherwise the garrison are to be put to the sword if the fort is taken. I have answered the demand with a cannon shot, and our flag still waves proudly from the walls. 4 stone cold facts. This is my situation, General Houston. 4 stone cold facts. Is there any opinion in here? No. 4 stone cold facts. Then he provides insight. This is his plans, this is his appeal, and his assessment. I shall never surrender or retreat. Then I call upon you in the name of liberty and patriotism and everything dear to the American character to come to our aid with all dispatch. The enemy is receiving reinforcements daily and will no doubt increase to 3,000 or 4,000 in 4 or 5 days. This is an emotional appeal, isn't it? Help! Help! Right? Significance are three significance elements. Logos. Impact if the message is neglected. If this call is neglected, there's three elements here. Not three sentences, but there are three distinct elements. I am determined to sustain myself as long as possible and die like a soldier who never forgets what is due to his own honor and that of his country. Very logos here. Logical. This is what's going to happen. Summation, the perfect summation. Two elements in his summation. One summarizes the key points, victory. One summarizes the insights and significance, or death. Right? The thinking process here, same thing. Now, I don't think he sat down and went ethos, pathos, logos in his mind because it was so ingrained in him and his thinking pattern that to him it was not a conscious thought. This is just the way you write things. I've taken this, extracted this, and given you a template called the KISS template on how to do the same thing that these people did here. How many of you have ever seen this done with the Gettysburg Address? Or the Alamo? But it's there. When we get beyond the KISS paper or the Daily Dozen, we have a thing called a monograph. This is another template that we use. It's a KISS plus. Longer paper. Has more detail, a little bit more conclusive. You can have a cogent paper with the KISS paper, but sometimes you're going to have to write a longer paper. If you use our monograph format, generally comes out to about 3 pages. Monograph format is simply an expanded application of the ethos, pathos, and logos. And I didn't invent it. I simply synthesized it. I looked at historical documents and found out this is a format people have used many, many times. Let's scope things out. We're going to talk about the KISS base. Then we're going to talk about this thing called 2468222. That's the formula for a monograph. 2468222. 2 sentences of introduction, 4 key points, 6 insight and significance, 8 detail, 2 summation, 2 conclusion, 2 closing. Talk about a thing called a Magic 26. That's a format that we use for the monograph. And we're going to go into the mechanics and give you some examples. We start out with our KISS base. 4 key points, 3 insight, 3 significance, 2 summation, 12 sentences or elements, our fundamental KISS base. We go to a monograph base, we're simply going to expand in a very systematic form. Just like we expanded from an abstract to a vignette in a systematic form, we expanded from a vignette to a KISS paper in a systematic form. We're expanding from a KISS paper to a monograph in a systematic form. We insert 2 introduction lines, 8 lines of detail, 2 conclusion, and 2 closing lines. That's it. That's it. We start with a KISS. Here's our Hamlet paper, page 35. Our Hamlet KISS paper here, page 35. You with me? See, we told you, just got to insert our introduction, our details, we call it filler, our details, our conclusion, and our closing. 2 lines of intro, 8 lines of filler or detail, 2 lines of conclusion, and 2 lines of closing. We insert some details here. You'll see it on page 37 where some details have been inserted. We insert our conclusion, found on page 38. We insert our introduction, found on page 39. And we insert our closing. We actually went detail. Then we went into the conclusion. We went from conclusion to introduction because we want to base our introduction on our conclusion, and then we go to our closing. Found on page 40. Simple enough? Everybody got it? Look at this, page 41. We have this monograph for Hamlet. Simple enough? Everybody got it? You dress it up a little bit, make your merges, boom, you got a paper here. It's going to be about 3 pages. See it on page 42? Simple enough? Or are you still going, ooh, I don't think I got this, Dr. Beasley. Yeah, I don't know. Let's get into some mechanics of this. I'm going to show you the trick. Okay, because I shot by that, and there's a trick to this. Filler, conclusion, introduction, closing. We're going to do some construction work. And I'm going to show you some guy who's pretty good at the trick. Well, actually, his speech writers are pretty good at the trick. This is President Bush's 9/11 speech. 911 is a perfect monograph. Found on page 43 in the full text. I extracted this right off the website. This is verbatim what he spoke that night, 9/11, to the nation after the 9/11 attacks. The people who write his speech are professional speech writers. They know ethos, pathos, logos. They also know the monograph format. They didn't come to my class, but I synthesize a monograph format, and I can take the monograph format and look at virtually every major professional writing and show you how it applies, either KISS, monograph, abstract, vignette. The thing is, these people who write professionally know the secret, and I'm giving you the secret tonight. Page 43, full text. I want you to pause and read it. This is a perfect monograph. There are 2 sentences of introduction, 4 sentences of fact, 6 sentences of findings, 8 sentences of detail, 2 of summation, 2 of conclusion, 2 closing. This is exactly 26 sentences long. Perfect monograph. We have the introduction, facts, and the findings. Found on page 44, you see the introduction. Now, in a monograph format, we have the 2 sentences of an introduction specifically labeled. The first one is called a T statement. T being your topical statement, your thematic statement, or your thesis statement. Your first sentence is your T statement. Here, his T statement is, today, our federal citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attacks in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist attacks. He's pretty well set what his topic, his theme, his thesis is going to be, right? And he has a compiling statement. The compiling statement essentially compiles the information that you're going to be reading early on and saying, this is what you need to prepare your brain to receive. He goes, the victims were in airplanes and in their offices, secretaries, businessmen and women, military and federal workers, moms and dads, friends and neighbors. He's starting to make you picture things. Then he goes into 4 facts, his key points. Thousands of lives were suddenly ended by evil, despicable acts of terror, and he lists 4 things. Stone cold facts. He gives us 3 insights. A great people have been moved to defend a great nation, and go on and provides us with 3 insights. Then 3 significances. If you look at the insights look like pathos, don't they? Acts of shattered steel, but they cannot dent the steel of American resolve. That's pathos, that's emotion. Then he gets into in his findings here in the 3 significance. America was targeted for attack because we're the brightest beacon for freedom. Getting into logos here. Our nation saw evil, very worst night. He's getting into logos here. He's beginning to show what we need to do, what has been done. He's getting into it using the monograph format, ethos, pathos, logos, key points, insight, significance. Gets into filler. He goes into detail about everything that needs to be done. Our first priority, our financial institutions. He's getting into detail. Then he summarizes. 2 summary sentences. He has 2 conclusion sentences and 2 closing sentences. Perfect monograph. You can go in and extract the KISS base from this. You go in and extract the sentences that would belong to a KISS paper, and they fit perfectly. Perfectly cogent KISS document. Key points, insight, significance, and summation. Whoever did this started out with something like this and expanded it. That's all they did. So we teach people, if you're going to write a paper, start out with a KISS paper and then expand it. He has a monograph here just found on page 46. He inserted detail, speechwriter did. Page 47, you see where they insert the detail. He constructed a conclusion. Page 48, to construct a conclusion, he pulled one conclusion sentence from the significance, and he pulled one conclusion sentence from the facts. He was drawing the facts in, he was drawing the significance in, bringing it into a conclusion sentence. This was a construction. Look at it. This was a deliberate construction of how you're going to tie the information together. This is a technique. All he did was say, when I'm doing the conclusion, I'm going to pull one from the facts and one from the significance. That's a pattern. And that's all you have to do. How to make the paper wrap itself. How to get a cogent paper. Here's how the conclusion aligns. The fact is our country is strong. In his conclusion, he talks about America has stood down many enemies before, and we will do so this time. Links those two things together. You see that? Then it goes into significance. Today our nation saw evil and so forth, and it says, this is the day when Americans from every walk of life unite in our resolve. He takes an element of significance and he places it into the conclusion. Doesn't quote it, but he takes the same idea and theme and moves it over there. So the reader at the conclusion is concluding. The ideas and the facts, ideas and the significance are coming together in the conclusion. See how this is almost crafted. You know, it's like a carpenter or even a sculptor is crafting this, you see. This guy's a wordsmith. And I want to teach you the tricks. The tricks are very simple. Nobody teaches them. That's why they're difficult. If you don't know it, it's hard. If you know it, it's easy. Constructed an introduction. The introduction is written after the conclusion. It has a T statement about the topic, the theme, or the thesis, and a compiling statement. We see this on page 49. They construct the introduction. The introduction is constructed. The T statement is constructed from the conclusion. The summary, the compiling statement is constructed from the summary. You go and you look at the conclusion that you wrote, and from the conclusion, you take the ideas and themes and construct the opening sentence. You want to make sure that the opening sentence is going to be concluded, right? How better to write an opening sentence than go to your conclusion and write the opening sentence? Your compiling statement, you're looking at the summary. I'm going to tell people ahead of time the summaries, this is what I've already told them. So let's go to the summary and see what we're going to summarize and then use that to tell people what we're going to tell them. You see how it's bracketed? This is just the trick on how to do it. This doesn't take, you don't be a genius to figure this out. All you have to do is know the trick. If you know it, it's easy. If you don't know it, it's hard. Align this introduction. This thing is bracketed. Look at this. Look at page 50. Your T statement is bracketed with your conclusion. Your compiling statement is bracketed with your summary. So when the person reads the introduction, he's already got the foundation of how the paper is going to be written and what it's going to say, and it ties itself in with the conclusion. It's bracketed. The closing. The closing directs attention outside the scope. You're looking for the next action, you're looking for the next idea, looking to the future, you're looking to related subjects. So what we have here, none of us will ever forget this day, yet we go forward. He's pointing outside of the paper, outside of the speech. He's pointing forward. That's what a closing is supposed to do. On page 51, you see the full schematic on everything was put together, how it was constructed step by step. Go to page 51 and you'll see this. These are the secrets of professional writers. This is the way that they do their thinking processes. These are the templates that you can use to write the same way they write. You with me? See how the whole thing comes together, page 51. Now, the monograph, the 2468, 222, it's part of the classical Greek rhetoric, the discourse, the models that they use. The monograph actually comes from what we call the discourse model, where the KISS paper, ethos, pathos, logos, key points, insight, significance, comes from a rhetorical model. The monograph comes from a discourse model. That was actually a speech, how you would present a perspective. That model goes all the way back thousands and thousands of years to the ancient Greeks. The only thing is we don't teach that in school today. And the reason we don't teach that in school, I don't know, but people like Travis learned it, people like Abraham Lincoln learned it, people like, who did I also know? Travis, Abraham, yeah, they learned it, and so they applied it. We don't apply it today because we don't teach it. Well, I'm teaching it now, and you're going to be able to use these templates to learn better. We go from Socrates' Socratic method, asking questions, to Plato, to his discourses, to Aristotle with his rhetoric. This is how the monograph sets itself up. It's not a Dr. Beasley idea. All Dr. Beasley did was research this and say, you know, I've uncovered the tricks on how to do this. I've uncovered the tricks of how they did it back then, and I've uncovered the tricks how Abraham Lincoln did it, and William Bennett Travis did it, and how George Bush did it. Now, I want you to go to page 52. This is Franklin Delano Roosevelt's Day of Infamy speech, December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor. Page 52 is the full text of this speech. Now, I'm not going to have you sit down and read it. I just want to show you that this monograph template is somewhat universal. Here's actually a depiction of the actual speech with his handwritten adjustments and notes to it. Here's a picture of him giving the speech to Congress on December 8th, 1941. Here's his monograph in format, page 53. He has his introduction. He has his key points. Monograph format, he has one change in here. He maintains the format, he just moves a few things around. What he did here is he stuck his details in between the insight and the significance because he wanted to detail the insights. Here the insights talk about how the Hawaiian Islands were attacked, and then he goes into great detail about all of the other attacks. Then he gets back to the significance. First line of significance say, let the facts speak for themselves. You see? You see how he constructed this? 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 2, 2. Moved a few things around. Still a perfect monograph because all of the elements are there, and the elements are there in the right sizes. It's still 26 sentences. The reason I get to this 26 sentence thing is because it seems to be a universal template. It seems to be consistent with a lot of people who write particularly presidential speeches. He used a little flexibility here. Let's go back to Abraham Lincoln, page 54. This is his second inaugural address. It, too, is a perfect monograph. Now, you know, you can sit there and say coincidences of history and stuff, but Abraham Lincoln, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, George W. Bush, these are not coincidences. There is a planned process in writing important speeches. That planned process is rooted in ethos, pathos, logos. It's rooted in the discourse format that they all use. 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 2, 2, 26 sentences, perfect monograph. He took a little liberty here. Page 55, he took one insight sentence and moved it to a significant sentence. Oh, by the way, there's no hard and fast rule here. You do have a certain amount of flexibility, but you see the consistent pattern. You see it? Using this template, you can write virtually anything. You with me? The perfect monograph. Now, we're going to talk about expansion of scope. Not everything is going to fit the KISS or monograph format. There may be things that you need to enrich or enhance. We're going to teach you how to expand the scope and the size. Back in the old days, I put this thing up here about Gateway Thesis. Turn to page 56. Back in the old days of our resident school, in order to graduate from Gateway, you had to write a master's level thesis, complete with the footnotes and everything, generally 50 to 60 pages long. One year, I didn't want to grade them. I really thought I was prejudiced and biased in my view. So I went over to the seminary in Fort Worth, Texas, and had the dean of the graduate school grade them. Now, he knew I was a college professor, and he also knew I was teaching Bible and theology courses, and a lot of these were written on Bible theology topics. So I took them over to him, and he went through them with a very critical eye, and he pulled 3 of them out, one written by a 13-year-old, one written by a 15-year-old, one written by a 16-year-old, and he said, these 3 would get graduate credit. And he didn't know they were 13, 15, and 16. He thought that these were people in my senior theology class in Bible college. And we had taught them how to write a thesis. He says, all of these are very good. And he says, these are good, upper division, junior or senior papers. And then I asked him how old he thought these people were. And he says, these people are probably seniors, maybe first year grad school, first year seminary. And I told him, and his just jaw dropped. He couldn't believe it. And what made them so much better? Because we simply taught them the tricks. If you know the tricks, then you can do it. We're simply teaching the tricks. What we're trying to do here, when we expand, we have to get a bigger paper. We want to order and organize our thoughts so that we can expand in a systematic manner. We're still going to budget our sentences. We want to maintain a certain level of craftsmanship in what we're writing. We just don't want to throw stuff down. Craftsmanship is kind of the science and discipline put together, added to art and style. Your art part of crafts is your style and how you write. And your science part is the discipline and how you're able to budget your sentences properly. Now, we're going to get 3 examples here. We're going to show you how the KISS format was expanded in Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. You've got to understand, Martin Luther King, he too was classically trained. Boston University is where he got his doctorate. We're going to look at a monograph and how John Fitzgerald Kennedy used a monograph format in his Ask Not What Your Country Can Do for Your speech. And then we're going to look at Lyndon Baines Johnson in his inaugural speech on how he used monographs and KISS documents stacked on top of each other for his speech. Let's look at these. Martin Luther King. On page 57 is the complete text of the I Have a Dream speech. I don't want you to spend time reading it. That's a complete text. What he did is he started out with a KISS paper and simply expanded each sentence into a very large paragraph. That's all he did. He has 4 key points. He started out with his key points, and what he did in his 4 key points, 3 insight, 3 significance, and 2 summation, is he expanded each one of them into a paragraph. That's all he did. Just expanded them into a paragraph. Kept the fundamental structure the same. Took a sentence, expanded it into a paragraph. John F. Kennedy, page 61, the full text of his inaugural address is there. What he did is he took a monograph base and he expanded each of his monograph sentences into a paragraph. That's all he did. Look at on page 63. He had 2 intro sentences, 4 fact sentences, 6 finding sentences, and then he went into paragraphs. Each one of his 8 detail elements was a paragraph. Each one of his summations was a paragraph. His conclusion was 2 paragraphs. His closing was 2 paragraphs. He kept the same template, just simply expanded different parts. And you can do that. There's no rule that says, well, you can't do that. You can do that. But you see how it lines up consistently in the same format, simply expanding different elements. Lyndon Baines Johnson. What he did is he started with a KISS and monograph base, and he stacked them. Page 65 is the full text of his speech. Page 67, we see how he stacks everything up. He uses an entire KISS document to do his T statement, to go into detail on how he was going to, what his themes were. Then his compiling statement simply went over the key points that he was going to talk about in his speech. And then his first key point is a KISS paper. His second key point was expanded to a monograph. His third key point was a KISS paper. His fourth key point was expanded into a monograph. He has 2 conclusion sentences, 2 closing sentences. You see the consistent application of the template, can see the consistent application of the principles and the way that they do this. Key points, insight, significance, 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 2, 2. It's very, very consistent. Our expansion techniques, you move sentences to paragraphs, abstracts, vignettes, or even a KISS document. You stack your KISS, your monographs, your abstracts, and vignettes. For larger documents, you can use a KISS or a monograph for a chapter. You can take your key points and expand them, each into a KISS paper. You can take abstracts and vignettes, put them in as introductions, conclusions, closings, and transition statements. And all you do, it's just like Tinker Toys. You just put them together. You can see a lot of this stuff on page 74. Just put them together in a systematic form so they make sense. One last example, Hamlet. We started with Hamlet over an hour ago, didn't we? We're going to close with Hamlet. I just want to show you that this particular model, this particular template I'm trying to show you tonight, didn't begin with Dr. Beasley. It is a classical application. We see it throughout history, and we see it here. Page 75 is the complete text of Hamlet's soliloquy. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take up arms against the sea of trouble. I'm not going to embarrass you. I'll stop there. But here it is, the entire text of it. This is how it parses out, breaks out, page 76. Yes, 4 key points, 3 insights, 3 significances. He has 2 summations that are used as introduction, and then he has 1 sentence as an afterthought. If you really look at this, it falls right into the template, doesn't it? It's probably the most famous individual speech in the English language. Written by William Shakespeare. You see the template, you see the classical Greek, ethos, pathos, logos, all over it. Roll up. We talked about the road system, read, organize, analyze, document. How to use the KISS format, the Daily Dozen. Ethos, pathos, logos, facts, findings, feelings, abstracts and vignettes. The monograph, 2468, 222, how to stack these things, how to expand them. If you simply only remember ethos, pathos, logos, key points, insight, significance, summation, you can write virtually anything. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank your patience. I really enjoyed myself tonight, and I really hope I've given you some tools that can help you be a better writer, a better thinker, and a better student, a better learner. Appreciate you all coming here tonight, and best wishes. Thank you.
Thank you.